Nintendo just released a brand new trailer for Splatoon, and it actually showcases a fair amount of new content coming to the game, including new maps, new weapons, new gear, and a new mode. So you know what that means, it's time to boot up the old analysis machine for an expedited breakdown of the trailer to see what secrets it might be hiding. So first up is what appears to be Splatoon's take on the Gatling Gun, and like Gatling guns in most games, you can see you'll have to spin it up first before it'll fire. I mean, you can clearly see the barrel rotating before any ink sprays out. In fact, you can even see blue streaks swirling around it, which will make it pretty obvious to your opponents what you're about to do. Now, it's pretty clear that this weapon has a very high rate of fire, which is to be expected, it is a Gatling gun after all, but this also likely means it'll burn through your ammo or paint pretty quickly, just like with a real thing. Of course, we should mention that it does appear to have a pretty large ink tank attached to the side, but like with the other weapons, we're confident this is only cosmetic, particularly as you can just barely see the normal sized tank on the Inkling's back in the final few frames. Unfortunately, because of the camera angle, we can't really gauge the weapon's range or accuracy, but going by how the Gatling gun works in other games, we have an inkling this weapon may not be extremely accurate. And by the way, did you notice how the Inkling has her eye closed while firing it? This likely means the weapon falls into the Charger category, as that's the only type of weapon where the Inklings do that, which we can see at the start of the trailer. Now the second new weapon is a paint bucket, and it looks to function almost exactly as you would expect, with the ink spraying in a straight line. And let's take a close look here. Now maybe it's just us, but it sure does look like a lot of ink concentrated in one small area before it spreads out, which likely means this will be an extremely powerful weapon at close range, kinda like a shotgun, as the Inkling who gets destroyed here can probably attest to. Now despite its unusual appearance, it's almost certainly part of the standard shooter class, although its rate of fire is pretty slow overall, appearing similar to the Rapid Blaster. But it does use dramatically less ink for the same amount of time, being closer to the Splattershot Jr. So that covers it for the new weapons, but there appears to be some new gear too. At least we're pretty sure it's new, I mean we haven't unlocked everything in the game yet. Anyways, first up is a straw hat being worn by the Paint Bucket Inkling, and we think his logo cover shirt may be new too. Next, if you look to the bottom right of this scene, we can see an Inkling wearing what appears to be an Asian conical hat. And that's it for the new gear, but there is something else new about this scene, such as the fact that it's an entirely new level. Now this one appears to take place on the roof of a multi-leveled apartment complex, which we base on the other surrounding buildings nearby. And we get a better look at them in this scene, where we can see towels and clothing hung out to dry. And most of the decks are decked out with satellites too. So at first glance, it may not seem like we can see that much of the map. But as it turns out, we can basically see the entire level, because if we look off to the distance, we can actually see one of the team's bases. And do you see that water tower nearby? Well, there's an identical looking one on the opposite end of the map too. And since we know the maps are mirrored, that means the high-graded platform here is in fact the very center of the map. Which would then mean that the opponent's base is located just behind the camera's viewpoint here. So based on all of this, we can actually get a pretty good idea of how this map is designed. And let's start off at the team bases, which appear to be the top level of the map, along with a graded walkway in the middle. Now, because the bases are raised off the ground, that should better insulate your base from attack, while also giving you a pretty good vantage point to defend it from intruders. But since it is raised off the ground, that means you'll have to immediately drop off in order to get anywhere. And once you do, it appears you'll have a couple of main options. For one, you can follow the walkway to what appears to be a ramp here, which drops off to another ledge just in front of it. And we think you might be able to use it to access a graded walkway that should be around here, based on the one that we can see on the opposite end of the map. Alternatively, you can just drop off to the area below, and that should be the lowest point of the level, from which you can head in basically any direction, such as by climbing the ramps or swimming up any of the nearby walls. In fact, although it's hard to tell for sure, it appears there may not be much in the way of barriers here, which should allow you to climb to the top of most of the walls here, similar to the Inkling here. Now one thing we noticed about this map is that it looks like it's going to be pretty cramped in the center, so you might be best off sticking as close to the sides as possible, such as by using the walkway here. Although there appears to be a sneakier option too, as it looks like you'll be able to climb up the wall here in order to drop off onto the opponent's half, into what should be a pretty out of the way corner. And that about covers it for the apartment map. But we get a look at a second map too, which takes place on a giant bridge, making this a long but narrow level. Now if we look to the far back, we can see a high platform that we're guessing might be one of the team's bases, complete with ramps that lead down and away from it toward the center of the map. But those walkways are graded, which could make traveling along them tricky since you'll have nowhere to go but down if you want to swim away. But at least there is solid ground underneath that you can use to get around. Alternatively, it looks like you might be able to travel around using the ramps on the side here. And we can see that same set of ramps on the opposite side in this scene, which would make the structure here the middle of the level. And that's about it for the bridge. But we're not quite done yet because there was one more weapon shown off, the Rainmaker. But there is a catch, as you can only use it in the Rainmaker mode, in which the goal is to grab it and carry it to the opponent's base. Now this much we already knew, but now we can actually see how the weapon works, as it looks like you'll be able to charge it up to fire an Ink Tornado, similar to the Inkzooka special weapon, which needless to say means it's going to be pretty dang powerful. And finally, did you notice they played an entirely new song during the trailer? Could this be a hint that new music is coming too? We can only hope. And there you have it, that's everything we could dig up in the latest Splatoon trailer. But as usual, let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Splatoon and other things gaming too.